not stand, my head works so. Ah, Sir Lancelot, said King Arthur, this day have I sore missed thee. Alas, that ever I was against thee, for now have I my death, whereof Sir Gawaine me warned in my dream. Then Sir Lucan took up the king the one part, and Sir Bedivere the other part, and in the lifting the king swooned. And Sir Lucan fell in a swoon with the lift, that the part of his bowels fell out of his body. And therewith the noble knight's heart brast. And when King Arthur came to himself again, he beheld Sir Lucan, how he lay foaming at the mouth, and part of his bowels lay at his feet. Alas, said the king, this is unto me a full heavy sight, to see this noble duke so die for my sake. For he would have holpen me that had more need of help than I. Alas, he would not complain him, his heart was so set to help me. Now, Jesu, have mercy upon his soul. Then Sir Bedivere wept for the death of his brother. Leave this mourning and weeping, said the king, for all this will not avail me. For wit thou well, and I might live myself, the death of Sir Lucan would grieve me evermore. But my time hieth fast, said the king. Therefore, said Arthur, take thou Excalibur, my good sword, and go with it to yonder waterside. And when thou comest there, I charge you, throw my sword in that water, and come again, and tell me what thou there seest. My lord, said Bedivere, your commandment shall be done, and lightly bring you word again. So Sir Bedivere departed, and by the way he beheld that sword, that the pommel and haft were all of precious stones. And then he said to himself, if I throw this rich sword in the water, thereof shall never come good, but harm and loss. And then Sir Bedivere hid Excalibur under a tree. And as soon as he might, he came again unto the king, and said that he had been at the water, and had thrown the sword into the water. What sawest thou there? Said the king. Sir, he said, I saw nothing but waves and winds. That is untruly said of thee, said the king. Therefore go thou lightly again, and do my command, as thou art to me lief and dear. Spare not, but throw it in. Then Sir Bedivere returned again, and took the sword in his hand. And then him thought sin and shame to throw away that noble sword. And so eft he hid the sword, and returned again, and told the king that he had been at the water, and done his commandment. What saw thou there? Said the king. Sir, he said, I saw nothing but the waters wap and the waves wane. Ah, traitor! Untrue, said King Arthur. Now thou hast betrayed me twice. Who would have weened that thou, that hast been to me so lief and dear, and thou art named a noble knight, and would betray me for the riches of the sword? But now go again lightly, for thy long tarrying putteth me in great jeopardy of my life, for I have taken cold. And but if thou do now as I bid thee, if ever I may see thee, I shall slay thee with mine own hands. For thou wouldest for my rich sword see me dead. Then Sir Bedivere departed, and went to the sword, and lightly took it up, and went to the waterside. And there he bound the girdle about the hilts, and then he threw the sword as far into the water as he might. And there came an arm and an hand above the water, and met it, and caught it, and so shook it thrice and brandished, and then vanished away the hand with the sword in the water. So Sir Bedivere came again to the king, and told him what he saw. Alas, said the king, help me hence, for I dread me I have tarried over long. Then Sir Bedivere took the king upon his back, and so went with him to that waterside. And when they were at the waterside, even by the fast of the bank hoved a little barge, with many fair ladies in it. And among them all was a queen, and all they had black hoods, and all they wept and shrieked when they saw King Arthur. "Now put me into the barge," said the king. And so he did softly. And there received him 3 queens with great mourning. And so they set him down, and in one of their laps King Arthur laid his head. And then that queen said, "Ah, dear brother, why have ye tarried so long from me? Alas, this wound on your head hath caught over much cold." And so then they rode from the land, and Sir Bedivere beheld all those ladies go from him. Then Sir Bedivere cried, "Ah, my lord Arthur, what shall become of me now ye go from me, and leave me here alone among mine enemies?" "Comfort thyself," said the king, "and do as well as thou mayest, for in me is no trust for to trust in. For I will into the vale of Avalon, to heal me of my grievous wound. And if thou hear never more of me, pray for my soul." But ever the queens and the ladies wept and shrieked, that it was pity to hear. And as soon as Sir Bedivere had lost the sight of the barge, he wept and wailed, and so took the forest, and so he went all that night. And in the morning he was ware, betwixt 2 holts hoar, of a chapel and an hermitage. Chapter 6.